Hello, I'm Leith Davis. I'm the director of the Center for Scottish Studies at Simon Fraser University. Ever since 1801, when 9 friends of the poet and songwriter Robert Burns gathered together to honor his memory, Burns has been the center and focus of social connection and conviviality. And this year, of course, things are very different, but we are still managing to connect with each other remotely through technologies like Zoom. And in thinking about these 2021 remote celebrations, I couldn't help but be reminded of an earlier time, an earlier celebration that also connected people through technology. And I'm thinking here of the centenary celebration in 1859, when people around the world connected with each other through their new social media platform of the day, the electric telegraph. Now, bear in mind, this 1859 Burns Centenary celebration was the first coordinated global Burns celebration, meaning people deliberately set out to connect with one another and to make it a global event. We know of at least 872 celebrations that took place, ranging from Dumfries, Scotland to Dunedin, New Zealand. There were 676 in Scotland, 76 in England, 10 in Ireland, 48 in the colonies, that's us here in Canada, 61 in the United States, and one in Copenhagen. We have a sense of what some of these looked like as well, because on Saturday, February 5th, 1859, the Illustrated London News featured pictures, illustrations of some of the larger gatherings. So we can see, for example, what the Corn Exchange celebration looked like, with about 1,500 people gathering in Burns's name. An equally large celebration took place at the Crystal Palace in London. And you can see here how this huge bust of Burns towers over the Victorian attendees below. Not to be outdone, closer to home for us here in Canada, the Montreal Burns Banquet at the City Concert Hall also features magnificent settings. And again, the guests in full Victorian formal dress who are gathering to honor Burns. We know what happened at many of these gatherings for the centenary because we have the recordings of James Ballantyne. He was a Edinburgh stained glass artist and a writer, and he was also secretary of the Burns Centenary celebration at Edinburgh's Music Hall. This was the second celebration that took place in Edinburgh, as well as the Corn Exchange one. And what Ballantyne did after January 25th is he used his network of contacts around the globe in order to collect together information about all the toasts, all the guests, all the food that was eaten, all the drink that was drunk. And he recorded everything he could find from each of those celebrations together in the Chronicle of the 100th birthday of Robert Burns. And it's interesting, of course, that he calls this a chronicle. So he's very much aware of being a historian making history. We know from Ballantyne's chronicle the way that people around the globe attempted to connect with each other. And they did this in several different ways. There were individuals who traveled between celebrations so that they could bring greetings from their home Burns celebration to the new celebration that they are attending. And we know that there were Burns's relatives who also traveled around. So, for example, Burns's son, William Nicol Burns and James Glencairn Burns, attended the Dumfries and Glasgow City Hall celebrations. We also know that people connected together through material goods. So in New York at the Astor House celebration, for example, um, they put on display, among other things, a lock of Burns's hair and an impression of his seal. These were like the relics of Robert Burns that were traveling around. And one of my favorites here at the Boston celebration at the Parker House Hotel featured a haggis made for the occasion in the cottage in which Burns was born. So we can only imagine what state that haggis was in after its transatlantic journey. Locations that didn't have their own relics of Robert Burns had replicas. For example, at Belleville, Canada West, there was a replica of Burns's cottage made from Canadian fir boughs, and it was mounted on runners for the special feature of the day, a sleigh ride with over 60 sleighs. Now, as well as people and material goods, we also have evidence of telegraphic greetings connecting people together. And the transatlantic cable, of course, would be another decade or so before it's operative. But there are links between locations within Britain as well as within North America. And so we find in Valentine's Chronicle evidence of these telegraphic greetings where people are instantly getting greetings from another location celebrating Burns. Just a couple of examples here. The Montreal Burns Banquet sent a telegraph to the New Orleans celebration in which they write, though distance divides us, we are animated by the same spirit, reverence, and pride for, and in the name of Burns. And to Bonnie Scotland, please reply. Hamilton, Canada West, wrote to London, Canada West, we are getting on finely. How's all ye? And London to Hamilton replied, Gailies brawlies, thanks to ye for spearing. As well as the greetings that were sent back and forth, we see in that Burns himself becomes a symbol of connection. And he's likened to a cable, a wire, an electric current that unites people together. The chairman of the New Orleans celebration gave this indication in his speech as he wrote, the electric flash blends our feelings in one current as the magic songs of Burns unite the hearts of his countrymen throughout the world. So just in conclusion, then, by Zooming together, by gathering remotely in the locations that we're in, we are treading new ground, but we're also very much following in the footsteps of Burns enthusiasts before us who used new technology to connect with each other. The medium changes over time. The message of friendship and social connection remains the same. So I wish you, wherever you are, a happy Burns Day 2021.